I would love if, regardless of faith, regardless of background, we can all just get along.
But you don't think it's possible?
I don't think so.
Why is that?
I always say, if you want to truly find God, everyone. The church, all these Christians, everyone. The incel population is going to grow so much, I would even predict some kind of revolt will happen. I don't really care about even if you're on the left or right, just don't be a pedophile and don't take money from and don't be going to that island.
I am here with Arthur Kwon Lee. Arthur, nice to meet you. Thank you for joining me in a discussion here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on here, Marco. I'm looking forward to it. We are both in the same cloth in regards to exposing these demons and liars, but some would say from a different avenue, but I would say on the same vein of trying to expose these liars.
So I honestly don't know a lot about you. We just met literally moments before sitting down to shoot this, but I know that you're a painter. Can you tell me about how you went from being a painter, relatively unknown, is that fair to say, to being the person that we know you for today through the internet? How did you go from one to speaking out about like larger societal issues, I guess?
So that's a very long story question.
Okay.
Yeah, my background is I'm a visual artist. I'm a painter. My first and foremost love, my passion is making art. I love beauty. That is what I utilize most of my mental and disciplinary acumen towards, which is creating art. So I'm an artist first. So people know me for commenting on the and exposing all the hypocrisy inside of our government. But it started from the fact that I am a painter. I care about beauty. And that's what I utilize most of my time in the day towards. Like I'm in the studio most of the day painting art. I have a life actually outside of, I guess, being an influencer, whatever you want to call it. I'm an artist first. And that's sort of how my journey started. I was just an artist. And I wasn't even on social media. Even when I was in New York City, surfing all the industry and climbing up that ladder of success, I wasn't even on social media. I had galleries selling my art for me. And eventually, I won Artist of the Year. And that was kind of a big boom for my career. And at that time, I was painting general things like tigers and mountains and warriors and Genghis Khan or whatever it is. But then I started to go where the art took me. And as a man, you know, we're talking about masculinity a little bit here. It's the most masculine imperative is speaking up for what's right. And as an artist, and creating content is a form of artistry, you want to utilize that in a proper way as well, symbolically or otherwise. And I started painting more masculine imagery. And I noticed that as I did that, the gallery holders, who are all a part of the same tribe, they did not approve. They're like, we want you to stay on the more liberal, sort of miasmic, cultural, friendly subject matter,
sure.
Right? Yeah, and then I just started going down that direction further, and they just didn't like it. And the fact that they didn't like that, something in me was like, okay, there's something here. Because as an artist, if you're being honest today, anything being suppressed or underemphasized that you believe has positive merit, you almost want to overemphasize it as a sort of correction.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like the yin and yang symbol.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep painting masculine imagery. And they didn't like that, but I was still able to work with these galleries.
So sorry to interrupt your story, but like what I want to know is what was their contention with the masculine imagery? Why didn't they like it?
Well, because the entire art industry is incredibly gynocentric. And again, I'm not a manosphere red pill guy. I see a lot of hypocrisy in that movement as well. But nonetheless, they are a part of that loony left system, right? And again, I don't believe in the bipartisan illusion, but they are completely ideologically committed to that mentality. So they don't like the masculine spirit, the proper masculine spirit. And I was going closer and closer to that. So as I painted in that direction, eventually I get towards the spiritual, right? Socially cohesive points, which is what religious symbolism is all about. And that's when they're like, we don't want anything to do with this guy. And then I got ghosted. And that's what sort of started my journey here, because I was just an artist. I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't care,
right?
Because I was too busy doing what I loved. I just didn't care, because if you're happy doing what you like, you actually don't care about what goes on in the world, which is, you know, why we should seek that in our health. But I was too busy being in the moment. So I was kind of had this privilege of naivety. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I want to do.
Yes.
But then I'm like, but then why is it that when I'm going where the art takes me, which is masculine, which was Christian, I'm a Christian as well, they don't want anything to do with that. And if art is about expressing yourself and exalting these people who dedicate all their life towards their craft, Suddenly, when it is in this domain, in this genre, they want nothing to do with you. And that's when I started asking questions. And at that time, Marco, I thought it was a left-right thing. I'm like, it's because they're the loony left. That's why. And I went on the right because I was pushed there, right? So I was like, I'm going to wear a MAGA hat. I'm like, that's why. But now, this is me looking in retrospect. At the time, I had no idea. I thought it was the radical left.
Yes.
But now I'm realizing it doesn't matter left or right. It's both. So now I'm unplugged to them both, and I'm realizing that the fight is much more deep because all of your political beliefs are undergirded by your religious or moral axioms anyway. So it's more eschatological. That's what I've come to realize. So the reason why the symbolism was so oblique and striking to them is because I'm hitting at the core.
I see.
Unintentionally, though. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So that's what got me down this rabbit hole.
It's so crazy, the similarities, now that you're talking about this and I'm learning this about you, because you don't know this about me, I don't think. But when I started my YouTube, I was actually a musician. So from the time I was like 18, I was working, like learning to do audio engineering because I wanted to work at a recording studio and like mix and master music. And I was making music, like I was rapping, I was making beats, like I was actually making steps towards being a like hip hop musician.
Really?
And I even worked at a recording studio. Like I was a full on audio engineer. Like I had production placements on like bigger artists' music. Like
cool.
I was pursuing that. And I also at the same time as like it sort of went hand in hand with the music creation was I worked for a concert promotion company. So if you scroll way back on my Instagram when I'm younger, you'll see like photos of me with like famous rappers because at this concert promotion company, I was like a driver essentially. So to me, it was like, okay, I'm going to make these connections by meeting the rappers, by being involved with the promotion company. And then if they need a studio while they're in town, they can come to the studio and whatever. And so at that time, I was fully like blissfully ignorant. Like you talked about having this naivete, right?
Yeah.
I also had that. I was like, I'm just making music and I'm having fun. And of course, didn't know about the grander workings of the music system as a whole. But you know, you mentioned it's a long story with your background. I'm trying to condense this. I'm trying to condense this transformation as best as I can. After 2020 happened and everything was like shut down, that's when I got more into like the internet, I guess. And I was watching people like Kevin Samuels. You know, Kevin Samuels. Obviously, that was when the sort of manosphere stuff.
A lot of people woke up at that time.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of the manosphere stuff was kicking off. A friend had shown me Andrew Tate in like 2021, I think. And I started learning more about just different ways of thinking. And up until that time, I was very like liberal. You know, I was a vegetarian for 5 years. I don't know.
There's a lot of externalities that would sort of have the liberal stereotype. I understand, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I was like, I don't know. I was just different.
Yeah, I mean, I unplugged. I just want to say real quick, I unplugged from a lot of that as well. And I would say whether you're on the left or on the right, the point is that the people are waking up to unplugging from the bipartisan illusion.
Okay.
Yeah, because like you said, the music world, just like the art gallery world, we have this in common, my brother. We both recognize that they're run by these supremacist. That's what it boils down to. And I want to make this very clear because I've said this multiple times. A lot of the people who have not dived into this rabbit hole, I'm not doing a wholesale write-off of all people. That's not the point of my sentiment here. My point is that there is a underlying supremacist ideology that causes people to castigate one another. And my issue is with supremacy. And today, Zionism is simply a veil to say supremacy. And that's why I'm saying this. And that exists and permeates in all of these cultural institutions. And the reason why I'm saying this is because once I was disaffected and feeling frustrated, I wanted to blame someone so badly for my failures, for being kicked out and for being rejected. And I said, you know what? The people I got to blame are those radical leftists. And that's why I put on the MAGA hat because I was emboldened in that direction. And then you realize that Conservative Inc., the industry of conservatism, the right-wing influencer space, they're just as cucked and retarded and hypocritical. So that's kind of why I feel like that is a part of the hero's journey, and many people can relate with the sentiment, and you have as well, because the reason why you're exposing these scam artists is because God has put you on this journey. God wants you to utilize your voice as a man to expose demons. That's what it is, to be a man, truly, honestly. So that's kind of what I'm doing in my domain as well, but I like to support that and acknowledge that and others who are doing so. You know, it's important.
Yes.
Because there's so much. The mass propaganda is just so strong. You know, it's just these are just individuals who are standing up for what's right across the board, whatever economic status, race, background, whatever it is. So I like to support that.
Yes, and I appreciate that. What you just said reminds me of how I was trying to explain my transformation, I guess, is once I started like unplugging and unsubscribing to pre-established beliefs that I had up until 2020, I guess 2021, I would say, I was also looking for someone to blame. Okay, something is off. Certain things I've been told are a lie. My outlook has been a lie. Who's lying to me? At first, I thought it's the libs. It's the crazy libs, just like you thought it's the loony leftists or whatever. And then I started seeing stuff about how like, oh, well, China owns TikTok and TikTok is the most popular thing. And now it's COVID and that comes from China. So everybody's watching TikTok and TikTok is what's changing our perspective. So then I was like, it's the Chinese. So then I started thinking, it's not the libs. It's the Chinese making me think it's the libs. So I was like trying to get to the underlying thing. Now I realize, actually, it's not the Chinese. It's another group making me think it's the Chinese, making me think
Marco,
it's the.
Or should I say it? Because I want you to keep your YouTube platform and all.
Yeah, but look, it's but you get my point. It's like I'm finding a thread and I'm tugging on this thread, and then I zoom out a little bit, and some more stuff unfurls over here, and I'm like, oh, the libs. It was the thread, and then it's like, oh, the Chinese actually making these crazy libs through TikTok propaganda. And then actually TikTok, they're telling us about how they're stealing our data and it's the Chinese. And then I'm like, but aren't the US-based social media platforms already stealing our data? Like, don't we know about the Cambridge Analytica Facebook stuff? And then I started looking more after, honestly, it wasn't even until 2023, maybe 2024, after October 7th. And to my own shame, I'm a Lebanese person. And growing up, I had seen my relatives watching like the Lebanese, Al Jazeera and stuff like that, and different Middle Eastern news channels where they would talk about bombing and war. And there would be times when like, oh, my grandma's supposed to come back from Lebanon, but she can't because the airport's shut down. But I never asked more questions, and nobody ever told me more of like, who's bombing? Who's fighting? And so in 2023, 2024, I started learning more about the history of Middle Eastern conflicts. And then to understand that, you got to go back to like the 60s. And then you got to go back to World War II. And then you got to go back to even earlier than that.
Right.
And that was really, I would say, honestly, it's only in the past like 3 years, maybe 2.5 years, that I really feel like, oh, okay.
Well, let me first commend you, brother.
Please,
good for you, because, the hardest thing for us to unplug is this coupling that, obviously the idea of family and traditional values is something to adhere. The problem is they sort of couple that with this conservatism that is the Christian MAGA psyop. So basically, everything you just described about the radical left, everything aesthetically we don't like about the left, we have to understand it's all being funded by the right, though. So this is the reason why I always say that all this political theory is all WWE bullshit, right? It's like we're all like looking at these political leadership that so-called represents us, but we have to go deeper, okay? We can talk about censorship. Let's say that's a contentious issue for you. Censorship, SPLC, ADL, I mean, that's Jewish. You can talk about the degeneracy of the world. OnlyFans, which is the largest funder of APAC, $11 million. Or MindGeek, who owns Pornhub, owns all the porn websites that are peddled in Northern America. They're all funded by the same people. You can look at immigration, if that's an issue for you. Open Society, George Soros, Jewish. The point is, it's not that I'm trying to be this, I don't have this Hitler fetish, right? I'm not trying to go around about like this, right?
Right.
That's not my point. I'm just looking at the commonalities. And again, the salient issue, if you go deep enough, and then you go deep into the literature that they believe that they're conditioned from their uprising in the Talmud, is there is a very salient belief system in order to actually successfully climb the ladder and tutelage of Judaism, rabbinical Judaism today, is the separation of Gentiles and chosen.
Right.
And just that in and of itself is a supremacist ideology. And my issue is that I believe we're all God's children. I believe I'm a universalist. I'm a Christian. And to me, that's antithetical to my belief system. And so all the issues you're laying out, the left-right paradigm, it's all bullshit. We need to unplug from that side because the left might give you aesthetic issues, but the vast majority of donors of AIPAC are in the Bible Belt, and they're in right-leaning states.
Yes.
So there doesn't matter. Like they're in cahoots together.
That was part of my awakening too, I guess, is realizing that the whole left-right thing, it's a distraction in itself. Like you mentioned immigration. It's like, the saying, create the problem, sell the solution. It's like we have our politicians who are compromised in one way or another by this foreign entity bombing other countries. And then because of the bombing, people flee from those countries and come to our countries. So now that also messes up our country.
And we're funding these kids being
and that's what I mean.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, like,
and that's why we should be disgusted by our leadership.
So we're funding the destabilizing of another country, and then the refugees come to our country to destabilize our country, and we're funding it on both sides.
Brother, last week they bombed a girls' school and 160 Iranian girls died. Like, this is what I'm talking about. It's like,
yes,
like the left and the right wing are a part of the same bird.
Yeah, they argue about everything, but they're unified on one thing. That seems a bit questionable to me, and it's just really.
Have you gone to? Okay, there's something called the IDF Telegram chat group. Okay, so this is the Israeli Defense Force. They have a Telegram chat group. Yeah. It is disgusting.
Yeah, I've seen screenshots.
Yeah, they're posting like little kids' heads, and then they'll write like, "Oh, should I piss on it? It'll be so hot." Like this. Like genuinely disgusting, depraved, satanic stuff. There's nothing more satanic than just going to that chat group. Okay, these people are being funded through the military-industrial complex from American politics. Okay, so
from the taxpayer,
exactly,
from your money,
exactly. But the point is that this Christian psyop, where everyone says, "Yeah, but Israel's our greatest ally." No, they literally spit on the floor when they look at Christians when you go to Israel.
Like, yeah. Well, here's I guess something where perhaps you and I will butt heads on, but there's a saying, if you can make people believe absurdities, you can make them commit atrocities. And you mentioned how it's like a satanic thing. You obviously have to be indoctrinated by something untrue and radical in order to be able to say such hateful supremacist things. Would you agree with that? That in order to look at children dying as a good thing, you must be brainwashed to some extent.
You're 100% brainwashed, but the problem is, most people who are enacting evil, including we can look at multi-level marketing scammers, okay? These people, look at the people they recruit. Those people who are going to you trying to sell all their courses or their supplements, they genuinely believe that they're going to get rich, and they're supporting and helping other people as well. Mm-hmm. This isn't just self-aggrandizement. I'm helping others. Yes, the people at the top, they're laughing like, conniving little demons.
Yes.
But my point is that people who genuinely believe they are chosen, they have this complex where they feel entitled to hurt others.
Yep.
Right? So, okay, if you have a son, you can convince him that Satan is cool. Because kids will believe anything, right? So imagine if you have this young child and you teach him the Talmud. You teach him the stepping stone towards Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism. Like, you have this pipeline where essentially it's conditioning you to believe everyone else who is not a part of your inner circle tribe is cattle to be utilized as your playthings and manipulated. Then, of course, you have no problem doing all this. So it's not actually that far-fetched, but that's why, as a it's very important that we expose this evil so that we can all come together. Because to me, this is the one issue we can all come together with, at least. And again, I'm not saying let's round up all of these and put them on trains.
No, I get that. I just want to establish this early on. Like, you're an Asian guy, I'm an Arab guy. We're sitting here having a friendly discussion. I don't sense from you that you are a hateful person or that any of your worldview comes from hate. And I certainly don't hate anyone. If anything, I hate the people who are at the very tops of these, like, for example, MLM companies, who are at the top of the structure, who know how it works, who are aware of the fact that they're harming people and that they're running a scam and they don't care. I think those people are psychopaths. The vast majority of people who join MLMs, I think, have been brainwashed. I don't blame them necessarily. They're naive. And a lot of these people have been indoctrinated, just like you talked about with that group, that they're indoctrinated from young to think they're special, they're chosen, etc. There's something called the Pygmalion effect, which is basically this idea: if you tell a child that he's stupid and you hurt his confidence, then when it comes time for him to go write a test, his confidence is lacking. Yeah. He actually performs worse on the test because he's second-guessing himself, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whereas if you tell children that they're special, that they can do anything, that they're amazing, whatever, their confidence goes up and they perform better. It's been proven, right?
I mean, we should all be, regardless of what race or creed you are, we should all be telling our children that, because increasing a child's self-esteem is the number one way they don't fall for things.
Of course.
They believe in themselves. So that is the number one thing we should be doing. My problem is that they're teaching their children that the other is to be used as your plaything, sexual or otherwise. Like, the Epstein thing is only the logical conclusion of this.
Right, and that's the thing. You know, there's this saying: there's two ways to build the tallest building: build the tallest building, or knock down every other building.
Yes.
So, you know, when I hear things about how they have the highest IQ, I actually do believe that's probably true. But do I think it's because of some sort of like genetic superiority? No, I think it's just because they grow up in communities where they're told and reinforced constantly that they're special, and they have, you know, there's benefits that come with having a community of people who just support each other, you know, like the money passes around within the community, you know. It's
But it
like,
also helps them that they can't really put interest on each other, and they have things
Of course,
like
yeah.
I mean, if you go to like, and people think it's like, oh, you're only talking about those at the top, but privilege is invisible to those who have it. And there's something called header iska.
yeah, I know about it.
And there's all these banks where you can get basically interest-free loans if you can show that your mother's side is Jewish. I mean, imagine being like a single mother who's not a part of that creed, and you know you have 2 kids, and it would be great to have some kind of financial support. That doesn't exist unless you're a part of that tribe. So I don't know. I mean, the fact that they utilize all that to their favor, and again, my issue is very simple. The issue I have is with racial supremacy. I hate to sound like a liberal, but this is the reality because
Yes.
look, you can go on Twitter, and Twitter is obviously a cesspool of degeneracy because it's actually another psyop most people are falling for. But you'll see like people troll, very 4chan-y content, go really hard in that direction. But I've met people in real life who come off really despondent, and they kind of put that guard down, and you're like, okay, you're just kind of going harder because it's Twitter, right? You're an anonymous keyboard warrior. It's fine. But these people actually believe that kinetically. Like they create things like the Samson option. Like they actually believe that you are Goy Gentile cattle and your children are theirs. Like I know that sounds crazy, but once you understand they actually believe that, you go, oh, it's not internet LARPing. They actually believe this.
Right. So,
You
I
know?
mean, I think you and I are on the same page where it's like we both don't like racism is ultimately what it comes down to. And I agree. I don't think that's good. I don't think any kind of supremacy is good. If you were advocating for Asian supremacy, I would be against you. If I was
I
advocating
do
for...
think race is real,
Of course.
but I don't. But I just believe that the solution is that we come together and we raise each other's classes up. And I believe the alternative is basically we might as well accelerate towards civil war. And yes, if some people want that, fine, but I don't believe that's the way. I believe that I've tried division, and it's definitely a good way to go viral because keep in mind that like I did blow up on the social media platforms. Like I did grow, and then I was banned like 17 times. I've counted all this, and I've lost a lot of opportunities. Lost a lot of money too, but I do believe that unity is the only way at this point too, because you can say, yeah, but they're only 0.2% of the demographic population, but they own 98% of media. So they can control basically the entire mainstream narrative structures. So it doesn't matter. We actually need to come together because they have so much infrastructural power, and the nepotism is
Yes.
on steroids.
Yes, and I mean, to that point, there's a lot of folks in the Jewish community who are not Zionists. Like you see videos of I think they're the Hasidic with the hats and the braids and the long jackets, where they're protesting against the actual state, right? So even people within that community, or I guess the
I
wider
don't want
community,
them to renounce their faith, though.
See, okay, and so this is where I was going to say you and I might butt heads, is because I think supremacy of any kind is unwise and misguided. You know, you mentioned the heteriska thing. In Islam, they also have halal financing, which is a similar type thing where you enter into a partnership, whereas as opposed
Sure.
to paying interest, for example.
But in Islam, they don't tell, like, okay, two things. Number one, Islam doesn't tell their children to try to castigate and make all Gentiles fight each other.
I understand. So obviously there's...
I just don't believe that is a proper operating system for humanity. Like if you're pro-human, if you want to like protect purity and sanctity, then that book just has too many things that are antithetical to humanity.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. There's degrees of extremity, of course. I'm not saying that the Islam thing is comparable one-to-one. It's not. My point is, and I think this is where you and I perhaps will disagree, is that I don't think religion is necessarily the remedy. Obviously, religion and religious belief has led this group that you're known for criticizing to have this supremacist ideology, which leads to a lot of harm. And, you know, you mentioned the Telegram group chats, and we can look what's happening in the Middle East and see the results of this underlying belief. But does that mean that the way to fix it is with a different faith? I personally don't think so. Why is it so hard for us to just say, you know what? everybody's equal. Let's be kind. Let's help others. Let's work hard. Do you need a religious belief to have that?
I wish we didn't.
And I get that. I do. I really do. But I just don't think.
I wish we can have Richard Dawkins or Sam Harris's fully automatic world, mechanical model where everyone was just proper with each other. But what I always tell my atheist friends, and I respect their position because they're taking their faith seriously, actually. They're better than these Bible-bent Judeo-Christian Zionist stumpers. So I respect this. But what I say is that you may not see the religious solution, but the point is that your enemies, the people causing all this subversion and destruction, they are trying to bring the Moshiach. Like, they believe this, so you may not believe it, but you look at the Epstein files, well, they clearly believe in this demonological perspective. So the reason why they believe this, and the reason why the one thing they hate is the idea of Christendom, and again, I'm not trying to evangelize here, but they do despise this, is because, again, some people, they come to Jesus from all this stuff, but I've seen darkness. And for me, it's like, okay, if there's a devil, I know there's darkness, there's a devil, there's Baal, there's child sacrifice afoot. There must be a God. And that's kind of what I'm trying to supposit here, where it's like, this is the narrative they don't want. They don't want people recognizing that they have this backwards faith.
Yeah, what you just said is probably the most compelling of all the arguments I've heard for why you should believe that, there's an equal opposing goodness.
Greater opposing.
And yeah, sorry.
Christ is king.
Yes, okay. So the idea that there's a greater opposing goodness that will offset and ultimately destroy the undoubted evil that's out there.
Like, how do you explain these spirit cookings? How do you explain the fact that there's literally, if you just read the Epstein files, or if you just look at the Pizzagate debacle in 2016, how do you explain any of that? Like, is there anything more satanic than that?
There isn't. But
that's our collection.
There's nothing. It's the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Nobody could even fathom it. It sounds ridiculous. My point is just that just because some people have been radicalized to commit such evil in the name of religion, does that mean that the solution is to radicalize in the opposite direction for some better religion or for some good? And make it this good and evil battle. I do believe it's a good and evil battle.
It is a good and evil battle.
But the evil is a bunch of people, in my opinion, who have been misguided into and being radicalized into believing some religious nonsense.
So my brother, this is a question on idealism then. Because what we're basically saying is, what is a more realistic, accurate perception of how the world works? And I don't denounce where you're coming from, because I wish that could be true. But in my experience, I believe that power is a vacuum. And when you leave that power, I don't have this Hobbesian belief that's like tabula rasa. Like, if you just leave it to the free market, people are going to be upright and erudite and proper, because that's the way the government works. Because when you actually did that, we had drag queen story hours and all this degeneracy and everyone protesting every weekend around the White House. I believe that power is a vacuum. You need to put power in there and actually put morals into your governmental system. And I know that sounds harsh, because I am kind of like this, strange right-wing anti-Semitic hippie or whatever you want to call it. But I do believe that that's actually the way power functions. There's a vacuum. And if we just leave it to the people, well, this is why everything's fucked up too. And then also, when you leave it alone, half the time going there anyways.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying leave it to the people necessarily. I don't think that we should just leave it to the free market and trust that everyone's going to find goodness and find the right thing. I think bad actors will always take advantage of people. I've seen this with my work in multi-level marketing. People who are without a path, people who are lost, people who are vulnerable. Anytime that they're approached by somebody who's this confident, well-spoken, passionate person, they want to follow that person. And unfortunately, sometimes those leaders are psychopaths trying to use their followers for evil, nefarious means. So I don't think that, I get where you're coming from, where it's like we need to have an opposing leadership. We need to have an opposing ulterior belief.
And I see where you're coming from too.
I guess my question is, do you really believe in what you're saying, or is it a wish? Because you said, I wish it could be true that we didn't need the religion. We didn't need, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's like, I also wish, you know what I'm saying? I wish.
I understand what you're saying. And you know
what?
But
do you not think it's possible?
Well, no.
Okay. Because my thing is just because what they believe is not true.
Well, we can use AIPAC as an example, brother. For example, it's, everyone's looking at this, obviously, Middle Eastern conflict right now. And if Israel conquers Iran and defeats them, they are making the ultimate middle finger statement that we can do anything, right? That's essentially what it is saying as a global statement. Well, the real way is not hoping Iran wins, although I can understand that sentiment. The real way is causing the Bible Belt to stop funding AIPAC. Because the actual stop to Israel isn't Iran right now, obviously. It's America. So it's basically if Christians, they don't fall for the Christian matrix, then suddenly we don't have a global conflict. So in other words, the people causing upright social cohesion and these familial values and actually believe in a metaphysical truth in their belief system, like they're the ones who are going to hold the country together and be the spine of the nation. So I understand you may not need it. We'll say that, but I guess we'll say that for argument's sake.
But I feel like that point kind of proves my point, which is like all these Bible Belt people who are Christians supporting this country, supporting AIPAC, do so because the quotation is being taken from the Bible that, you need to support Israel, right? So
it's not being taken from the Bible. That's mass propaganda. And civilizations have always fallen for mass propaganda.
Okay, maybe not from the Bible, but their preachers, their leaders are misquoting the Bible to say, he who supports Israel, what's the saying? Those who support Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. So even that kind of proves my point, which is like if nobody was subscribing to religion, Christian, Islam, or otherwise, then there would be no Bible Belt, Bible thumping Christian people to sort of have that circular logic belief of like, my pastor said I should support. Why don't we just not support it because it's wrong and what they're doing is evil and children are dying?
Here's where I really sympathize with where you're coming from. You are essentially an anarchist, which I really appreciate because it's basically saying absolute skepticism to all leaders because they can screw you over.
No, I just want to jump in because I don't think you should have skepticism towards all leaders. But why can't you? Why couldn't you be a good leader and it not be faith-based and it not be based on like ancient prophecies and like some all-seeing, like why couldn't you just be a good person who is kind, helps others, and works hard and leads by example without religion?
Let me first agree with you. I would love if regardless of faith, regardless of background, genealogy, anything, we can all just get along. Who's going to say no to that? I don't disagree with that.
But you don't think it's possible?
I don't think so.
Why is that?
You just read history over and over again. There's always going to be large-scale religious factions conquering, and it's never left humanity. It's like intrinsically a part of us. So I look at that and say, who do I want to go with, right? And which faith gives you the most grace and actually gives you the highest likelihood of having everything that you care about? Well, for me at least, I can speak as well, right?
I do get that. And look, if I had to choose one, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I'm not...
Christ is king, yes?
If I had to choose one philosophy to subscribe to of the three big religions, that's the team I would be on. My point is just that, and I don't want people to take that out of...
It's nice here.
I don't want people to take it out of context and be like, oh, well, see, that's proof that he's like... No, my point is just that one thing being absurd nonsense and one being less absurd nonsense or less evil in its scripture, in its writings, doesn't necessarily make it true. And look, I'm somebody who... I care about right and wrong. I also care about what's true. Arguably even more, I care about what's true. And so I can recognize that what they're doing over in the Middle East and looking at people as less than and looking at themselves as the chosen people who are better than everyone else is wrong. Does that thus mean that now I need to default to saying, well, then this must be the path? No, I don't. And to address
First of all, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
No, of course.
You got free will here. But what I will say is that often people are describing, like scientific truth will tell you materiality of how things are made, but it'll never tell you what is moral. You always need stories for this, is the point. Even if you don't believe in God at all, you still are getting your morals from the lessons of an experiential tale.
I disagree with that.
Then where do you get him?
I think it's inherent in us. I mean, where does a dog learn to be gentle with a baby?
I think that human beings are supposed to be taught and conditioned. That's
of course,
the whole point of parenting,
but
right?
you can teach, and this goes to the thing you said a moment ago about how you look at history and it's always been a constant, this sort of subscription to a higher belief. I believe that religion comes from humanity in its infancy trying to understand the world. When it rained, they thought, oh, the gods must be crying, and that's why, we need to sacrifice the...
Have you read the Bible?
I went to Catholic school growing up. I haven't read the entire Bible, of course, but I've read
So there's a
parts
guy
of
named
it,
St. Thomas Aquinas, and he says there's actually 9 levels of interpreting God. And the first one is the white bearded man in the sky, which is what they basically tell kids. So whenever somebody tells me, oh, you believe there's some archaic guy who's making the sky rain, I'm like, no, that's like level 1. It's like it becomes more about understanding that it's a very simple thing. It goes to a deeper consciousness axiom. Like, is there a creator? Do you believe that? That's pretty much what it stems from first. And if you don't believe there's a creator, then this is all absolute determinism, and it doesn't really matter because whatever's going to happen is going to happen anyways, and that's fine too.
Right. Well, this is where I think you've presented me with a false binary, because why do I have to pick one or the other? I don't necessarily think it's either.
Well, you don't need to ask yourself anything.
Yeah. Well, I don't think, okay, to answer your question, though, I don't think it's either of them.
Okay.
I don't think it's either of them. And maybe the answer is we just don't know yet. Like, I've heard this before, even growing up and going to Catholic school, where it was confusing going to Catholic school growing up, because I would have like religion class in the morning, and they would be like, oh yeah, well, 2,000 years ago when the humans were doing this. And then after lunch, I'm having science class where they're like, oh yeah, well, 40 million years ago, the dinosaurs. And I'm like trying to reconcile the two. And it's like, so which is it?
Well, these
it's
are
like
all human beings basically passing down things. I understand that. Like, that's all what all information is. Yeah.
And so to your point that you said a minute ago about how it's passed down, you look at history, it's passed down. Well, would you agree with the statement that there's no such thing as a religious child, only a religious parent? Like, no kid would have come up with the stories of the Bible or whatever religion on their own. It has to be passed down, right? So my thing, what if we just stopped passing down the specificity of the stories themselves and instead just pass down morals? I mean, when I was in kindergarten, we had the sign on the wall, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I mean, that's kind of the only one you need, really, right?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Because you'll get a lot of that merit from the Bible. You get so many of these truths from the Bible, and the whole idea is that to have a socially cohesive culture in society isn't just a golden rule. Like, for example, having a family, as a man especially, you need to have 20% more income for even one child. That's all sacrifice. That's not a golden rule. So now suddenly you need to be a selfless person for the rest of your life, but it brings you joy and death. Like that breaks the golden rule right there.
But is it not?
You're not doing something.
Okay.
All you're doing is giving to this child now. And to your wife. That's all you do.
Okay, forget the golden rule for a sec. Maybe that's not all of it, but maybe that's like a big chunk of it. When it comes to even something like that, reproducing, do we need the Bible to tell us that that's the right thing to do, to reproduce and get married? It's like, isn't it in us as animals, as living beings, to want to reproduce? Like, my dog doesn't understand the Bible. He still be wanting to fuck and make babies. So it's like, where did he get it from? This is my point.
I know, but that's the first lesson of the Bible in Genesis, which is that the more natural you are, the more healthy and happy you are. That's the whole point of the garden. So like, I don't even disagree with this at all.
But could I not come to that conclusion without that?
I know. Well, you could, great, but it's more so that, like, I mean, I guess you're trying to parallel this to. I don't know, like statistical real. I'm because like what I believe is that a child needs a mother and a father giving unconditional love.
I agree.
I truly believe that.
I agree with that.
And that's the design of what is being advocated with the Christian nuclear family. The whole point is that now you're coming together, and even by going to church once a Sunday, it's not even necessarily about the message. It's just the fact that you are with your family, you're doing something together, going out together once a week. Even that, it's like there's social rituals there that are good, that have merit.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So like, even that's why people who just sort of follow it in a hunky-dory manner, they end up being rather fruitful and happy.
Yeah.
At a personal level. I'm talking about like internal health. So like whether they're like, it's like I can try to dispute with them whether, Noah really was able to gather 2 of every animal, but that's kind of besides the point, because they're a happy and healthy family who are,
right.
It's like, I'm not trying to destroy that. Like they're getting the things that they want in their life,
right,
and they're happy.
Yeah.
And they don't really care about the secondary discussion of whether the earth is rotating at this speed or that speed. They don't care because they're following the moral truth of what the Bible is trying to signify in their lives.
I agree with that. I agree with the message that it's trying to tell. But by that same logic, Spider-Man's Uncle Ben told him, with great power comes great responsibility. I can believe that and take that value from that message without literally believing in Spider-Man. So I guess my question for you is like, do you literally believe in it, or do you sort of just agree with what it metaphorically represents or the underlying lesson? Because I feel like we're capable as a society at this point in 2026 to pass on the morality and the good values and the good teachings and the household with the mother and father and leave all this stuff behind. Like, even the Bible has stuff about stoning people to death and the sin of wearing mixed fabrics or mixed fibers or whatever. And it's like, surely there's a bunch of nonsense that we could leave behind.
No, that's true too, though. Like you should pretty much only wear cotton.
Okay, okay.
Or linen. I mean, that's true.
Okay, but broadly, you get my point.
Microplastics and all that's all very true too.
That is okay, but broadly, you get what I'm saying, where I'm coming from. It's like, if every baby born starting today was never told a word about religion, do you think that in 20 years they'd all just be running around killing each other?
Not that they would all be running around killing each other, but I would say the children who are brought up with the most love and acknowledgement to process, especially with their fathers, which is what we're seeing with the recent data. Having a father to process everything with, especially sons, they'll do better off. But if they have a book telling them to do that, it's at least one pillar, at least, that supports in that direction, would you say?
Yes, and this is actually where I admire the, I guess, religious...
Like my father literally always had my back, and I know it's because we talked about deep things together because the church advocated that. Like, talk to your dad and process things with him, because that's what he's there for. Otherwise, you're going to have this, desire to go into the manosphere.
So this is the thing. It's like, with that example with your dad, if your dad was always there for you and, provided these positive feelings and values within you, but there wasn't the backstop of like, because the Bible told me to do this, would it be it's not the valid or less valuable?
It's not even that, like, the Bible saying, like, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. Like, it's not that fatalistic. It's much more so that this is a story, like the story of Joseph, whoever it is, and this was definitely conducive for him to have this and to avoid having this pitfall. It's more so like that's the direction it's going for. It's not like literally you're allowed to make any mistake you want. Like, you have free will. It's not like he's saying you have to do this. Like, this is another thing. It's like every time I talk to people about Christianity or the Bible, it always goes in this direction. It's like, okay, so I'm going to go to hell if it doesn't go this way. I'm like, no, you can do whatever you want. These are stories on repeat. All of these people in the Bible saying, this is what happened, the consequence of this. This is how their life unfolded. And just the fact that it's old, it gives it this aesthetic merit where it's enjoyable.
I get it, but this is what I mean.
It's cool. It's like you're opening a tome. You're like, this is crazy.
I know, but just because 2,000 years ago, somebody also came to the same conclusion about some moral right and wrong as today, and they published it in an old book, does that mean that the book is the source?
No, I'm not saying because it's... I'm speaking aesthetically. I also like just the fact that it shows that how human nature hasn't changed, because the Bible is more like a library, right? It's not just a book. There's so many stories in there. And it just goes to show you that human nature has always been this way. We're always going to suffer. We're always going to betray and be fucked over. We're always going to have losses in our lives. We're always going to be sinful, and we can overcome it. And also we always have the grace of forgiveness and forgiving ourselves.
For sure. But I mean, isn't this all one big, like, appeal to authority fallacy? Oh, it's very old. It's been around a long time. It's an institution. I believe it. My grandfather believed it. On and on and on. It's like, I think of the analogy of like Santa as actually very apt. And I don't mean to offend anybody when I say this, but like growing up, your parents tell you Santa's real. There's evidence put before you when you wake up in the morning.
Saying, is
there's
Jesus
the gifts.
real? Is what you're telling me? Because all here.
That's not what I'm saying.
Oh,
my point is that I took the lessons from Santa and the Christmas stories and the movies and the books, which are published every year. And think of how many people would have to be in on it to make kids believe in Santa. And we are all in on it, right? And there's proof before my eyes. I saw the commercials with Santa on TV. My parents told me he was real. I woke up and there was Christmas presents from Santa underneath the tree. In school, we wrote letters to Santa and we sent them off to the North Pole. It was like part of the, I think in Canada, it was like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, in Canada, we have like Canada Post. And I think that was like a program. I don't know if they still do it, but like you could write a letter to Santa. And I don't know how, but there was all of this like supporting evidence for Santa to believe in Santa. And then when I got to a certain age, my parents told me, okay, yeah, actually Santa's not real.
But these stories all have different symbolic underlying operative moral principles. Like Santa's a very paganistic, cultural kind of punch.
But you get the point, though. I think it's an apt analogy for people saying, "Oh well, I believe this, and I got my
know
lesson."
The life of Jesus, and when you read it, and you connect with it, and have a relationship with the story, or
honestly, yes.
Okay. So
in the same way that I connect with the story of Harry Potter or Spider-Man or Batman. Yeah.
So it's like nothing sacred to you?
Of course, things are sacred to me. But did I need religion to come to that conclusion that certain things are sacred to me? And maybe you're trying to trap me in like a word game with the word sacred, and like so sacred means okay.
No. I'm asking, is nothing sacred to you? Because to me, there is an exalted worthiness. Just the fact that, like, when's the last time you've seen something feel like in our culture is sacred? Everything is degeneracy. Everything is vile and vitriolic, and the fact that families can at least come together and feel like a sense of reverence, just that alone is, to me, a positive. It at least counters the degeneracy that they see when they scroll their phones all day.
Of course.
Like, there's a healing phenomena here. It's not just, you're all just fundamentalist retards who don't understand anything about the real world. Well, these people, they're often more happy than others.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned earlier too about this sort of social cohesion and the, going to church as being this important social net, essentially, right, for your community. I agree with that. And this is something that I admire greatly about, I have relatives who are Christian, who are Muslim. And the thing about like the discipline that's instilled, the habits and routines, the patterns they follow is something to be admired. Absolutely. I just wish that the sense of community we have could be centered around, like I said, the values of help others, be kind, work hard, and not necessarily religion.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree that like those are positive things that the world needs more of. But people will get community going to like Comic-Con events or
that's what I mean.
Pokemon cards.
Like, could that not be your church?
I mean, go ahead. I would say go ahead and do it.
So this is what I want to know is like I'm not accusing you of like LARPing as like a Christian because you think that this is like the only way to combat evil. My question for you is
I'm not saying that's the only way to combat evil. I never said that. Yeah.
Well, I guess, do you believe in this philosophy that like Christ is king and he's going to come back and defeat the evil someday?
I'll make it personal first. I'm not an avid churchgoer.
Okay.
I don't even advocate religion, although I will use that term because it's a good way of scaling values. I will say much more that I don't go to church every Sunday. From what I've read in the Bible, from what I've read of Jesus' life, and from what happened to him, there's so many modern parallels in my life in conjunction to looking at the dominant structure, and it gives me peace.
I mean, I feel the same way about Spider-Man. I hope that's not blasphemous to you, but like my question is, do you actually believe? Like, I don't actually believe in Spider-Man.
That's fine.
But I resonate with Spider-Man, and I feel like I got good lessons from Spider-Man, and I admire Spider-Man.
This is why I asked the question earlier. So yeah, I do believe Jesus was real,
and I don't dispute him being real. My point is just that I don't really think it matters so much if he was. Spider-Man's not real. I can say that with confidence, but it doesn't dilute the value that I get from Spider-Man. What's the difference? It's mythology, right? It's stories about a man's life that you are inspired by, that you get values from, that you learn from, that you instill in your children. I watched Spider-Man when I was a kid. Then I showed my nieces the movies. I learned about Jesus when I was a kid. And now I'm teaching my kids about Jesus. What's the difference?
That it gives tremendous brevity and it allows you to move in this world without any of the darkness actually touching you. Like it gives you a portal of just contentment about disappearing forever. It makes you okay with dying. Like, I don't know. For me, it gives me a lot of reflection and peace. I don't know. I mean, for me, that's important.
Right.
Yeah. Spider-Man doesn't do that for me.
No, that's fine.
Spider-Man doesn't do that at all for me. I'm like I love the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man series. I love that shit. That's so fun. But if I want to get deep internally and actually, by myself in a room, silenced, then that gives me a lot of grounding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel the same about like in Islam, they pray 5 times a day, or at least they're supposed to, right? Yeah. When people tell me that, oh, well, praying 5 times a day really helped me clear my mind and feel at peace. It's like, well, you're essentially meditating 5 times a day. Like, of course you're going to feel more calm and at peace. Does that mean that you actually genuinely had some like connection with a higher power and a greater being? Or are you just meditating 5 times a day and clearing your mind and not being overstimulated by your phone or whatever?
Here's an intellectual question I'll ask
obviously.
you, to respond to that. Like G.K. Chesterton, he once said that you should have the freedom not to go to church, but you should also have the freedom to go to church. And what I would say is that if you can have the freedom to say you can get all the morals from Spider-Man, good for you, why is it an issue for people to get the same thing and maybe deeper in Jesus Christ? Why is that an issue?
I think I can actually answer that because subscribing to a religion comes with way more, in my opinion, than just subscribing to the good parts. You're also subscribing to a bunch of, in the case of like, for example, we were talking about the Talmud and Judaism. I'm sure there's a lot of great lessons in there too. I'm sure there's a lot of positive things that they're teaching as well. But to subscribe to it as a whole, you're also learning I'm better than everyone else, the cattle thing, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why I'm like, that's why I use Spider-Man as an example.
But the thing is, see, this is the problem. Most people, especially in Northern America, they are all subject to public schooling, so they are taught this idea of pantheism, right? This idea that all faiths go to the same place. As long as we're being religious, as long as we're believing in God, it's all reductionism. And these faiths say very different things. So, for example, like Judaism defines themselves from the rejection of Christ. And that's not the same thing as Christianity. So you can say, yeah, but Judaism says this, and then they also say this as well. So it's 2 different hats. Well, they have a very different moral structure towards building civilizations than Christianity. That's my point.
I get that. My thing is like, what if everyone's wrong? The people who are subscribing to the belief that's having them do evil are wrong.
So you want an atheist scientific world?
Do we not live in a scientific world?
No, I'm asking you. I'm not talking about material truth. I'm talking about moral truth.
Okay.
You want an atheistic scientific world where anybody who goes to church or believes in God is kind of looked upon as more primitive?
No, you had me with the first half.
I'm trying to understand.
You had me with the first half. If somebody, like genuinely a grown adult, came to me talking about their belief in Santa Claus or their belief in Spider-Man, you would call them crazy. And if they justified it by saying, well, I learned a good lesson from this and the movies, and he's a good guy, and we're fighting evil, and in real life we have things that we see every day of people robbing people, and Spider-Man taught me that I should not stand around and watch.
Let's just get to the point.
Then yeah.
Okay, so basically, you don't believe in God, is what you're saying.
My point is that I don't think you need a belief in anything other than what's right and wrong in order to function in society or be a good person. And the rebuttal to that, I can already hear it, is like, well, where did you get that morality from?
No, I'm just asking you if you believe in God or not. It's very simple.
Me personally, I don't. I don't. Like, I know you mentioned that there are layers of understanding, and there's like the one level, which is the guy with the white beard.
Yeah, because that's the main straw man that like Richard Dawkins and all these guys say. Like, there's an actual man in the sky. It's like, no, we never anthropomorphize him. It's actually deeper than that. Okay. It's just the idea is we're even using small mouth words called human language. Like, that's not even like I'm just saying, like, is there something that designed? Like, this is a very loose general question. Is there any consciousness and intelligence that is beyond human supremacy, I guess?
I don't know.
And that's the bet, because essentially the idea is that, again, most people, and here's where you're right, most people in these religious circles, they don't go deep into actually saying what are our metaphysical assumptions, but at least they're taking a gamble and going with one. And my point is that, like, I believe that if nobody knows anything ultimately, if we're going to keep going down to this rabbit hole, well, just take your bet, and then whatever gives you a better life or you're happy with your short time here, fine.
Isn't this called Pascal's wager?
Elaborate.
I want to make sure I'm using the term correctly. I think Pascal's wager is this thing where you're essentially hedging your bets, where it's like, I don't know it. Okay, yeah. So Pascal's wager is the argument that a rational person should live as if God exists, even if it can't be proven, because, like you said, you're at least betting on something. So that way, when you die, if you get to heaven.
Yeah, I mean, I also just look at, like, because I understand, like, I also just look at the bet of life. I'm like, okay, average lifespan is 70 to 90 years now. What is going to give me what I value, which is happy, healthy children that I can love and be with? That's just all I care about, honestly. I mean, like, it's like that's kind of what I boil down to. And if there is a faith that actually has a community based on that, so I'm with other people with those same values and they can also be with each other, I'm more than happy to be in there, even if I don't get the exact details right.
Sure.
Personally, yeah. I'll first say that in a wholesale, simple, pragmatic way. And then number two, I'll tell you, the way I came to Christ is not the way most people come to Christ at all.
Go ahead, yeah.
Because I was kind of atheistic. I was into Alan Watts. I was very agnostic. But none of that ever was satisfying. Like listening to Sam Harris and all these, the Four Horsemen and all these guys, I was like, okay, I can basically say that I know more than you and kind of be like this know-it-all kind of character. It didn't do anything for me morally. I didn't feel at peace. So eventually I just went down rabbit holes and I definitely started exposing darkness because I felt that I was trying to fight for the truth, trying to go towards the light. But I never was able to really signify that or feel at home with that light. I just knew that I was trying to go in that direction. And I didn't have like a come to Jesus moment like, oh, God is giving me his embrace. St. Michael came down and gave me a hug. The Holy Spirit's talking to me. It was nothing like that. It was just much more realizing that there's everything that I wanted in life was just the closer I got to acknowledging Christ, the closer I had everything I wanted. It was just that pretty much. It was more interpersonal for me. And then I was like, but I can't believe in the resurrection. I do believe Jesus had this perfect life and I couldn't get behind the resurrection. But that was always the one hang up for me. And then I saw the Shroud of Turin and I'm like, how do you fucking explain this? And I'm on the party of, if you can't explain that shit, if it's the most researched artifact ever and they literally have this weird linen that's a photographic negative and there's a burst of light after 3 days of decomposing, and every atheist scientist has tried to disprove it, and they're like, we just don't fucking know what that is. Like, I'm on that side. If you can't prove it, then that tells me what I want. In conjunction to the fact that whenever I'm in these conspiratorial rabbit holes, the one thing that they hate, the one thing all of them are against, and they despise is hearing the name Jesus Christ. They get fucking vitriolic when they hear that.
Right.
That painted a picture for me where I'm like, it's giving me peace interpersonally, and also all the enemies that I'm exposing have an enemy against this. That to me really gave me this resounding contentment. So it's almost like if it's giving you what you want, like I don't need to keep fighting it.
I get it.
It's easier that way. It's easier that way for me too.
I get you. And look, if Jesus himself is the symbol of going against this evil other religious agenda, then I'm all with it.
Atheists should look at him as like a mascot if they want.
Yeah.
It still works in favor of fighting evil.
Yeah, and let me say, I like when I see comments on Instagram and stuff of people saying Christ is king. I like that there's been this search for truth and search for like morality and community. Even when I've seen like, when Andrew Tate converted to Islam, which I don't really actually believe that he believes that, but even with like seeing a bunch of white dudes in the UK like convert to Islam, it's like, even though I think that they're misguided, all due respect, I respect that they're at least searching for something, because you're right, they've been surrounded by degeneracy, filth, lies, so they're searching for something that is antithetical to that, and they're finding that with religions like Islam, like Christianity. So I like when I see people commenting things like Christ is king. My thing is just that I think they're close and their intentions are obviously good, but I just don't think.
So Marco, you know the answer. What is it?
Help others, be kind, work hard.
Okay, that's literally what Jesus said.
Okay, just because he also said it doesn't mean that that's necessarily the underlying authority behind it, or that that's where it came from, or that now my belief in one has to constitute my belief of the other. Yeah. I didn't know he said that. How did I come to that?
But my point is that that sentiment is the same spirit that it comes from.
Sure.
So why even have? That's the thing for me. It's like Christianity was the line of least resistance. It was more of like sinking into my own. Like it wasn't an effort thing.
It was
more of a relaxation thing.
Yep.
And it's just that word hasn't, and I understand there's always going to be a demographic of people who bastardize everything. There's people who use philosophy. Literally, they use philosophy for their own bullshit.
Yes.
There's people who use there's always going to be people who bastardize everything. And of course, there's Christian retards. I don't doubt that. But I feel like, and this is very salient, it's very common, I feel like most people are taught the Bible, but they don't actually read it. Like, they don't just read it.
Yeah. I got in some trouble last year because I posted an Instagram story where I said, I would argue that there are more people on earth today who have read all of the Harry Potter books in their entirety than have read the Bible. I think that's true.
That's might be true. I don't know. That might be true.
Because even going to Catholic school as a kid, I don't know any one person who ever, like,
that's what I'm saying.
Read the Bible.
That's what I'm saying. Most people are utilizing the institution of the church, and most churches are, in your defense, they're absolute slop. They're goyim places of congregation. So I don't disagree with you. I'm speaking as a person. You know, I always say, if you want to truly find God, fuck everyone. Fuck the church. Fuck all these Christians. Fuck everyone. Like, that's how I found it. I said, fuck everyone. And if it coincides with them, they're like, oh, you're using Jesus' name. I'm on team. I wore this Jesus cross. All right, cool. But I can only speak my truth. That's all you can do too.
Right.
That's kind of the way I got here. But I agree that most Christians, they're falling for the slop as well. But when I look at it on my own, tangibly, I come to my own truths. I say a bunch of things that Christians hate as well. I've said many things that are regarded blasphemous with them as well. But I'm still going to go for the tribe or the team that I think is going to be antithetical to the power structure now, which is supremacy. I agree with you from the beginning that I have a problem with the supremacist ideology, but I do think the only thing that actually is standing against him is the thing that they say that they hate the most, in secrecy.
To your point as well, there's division amongst all of the religious beliefs. Like, there's how many sects of Islam, there's how many sects of Christianity. Shias and Sunnis, and then, like, with the broader blanket umbrella of Christianity, or like there's Catholicism, there's like Orthodox, there's Protestants, it's endless, really.
Yeah, but there's also something to keep in mind, which is that this, like, Christian thing, it wasn't really born, this term is like at the focal point of the public square today whenever anyone mentions Christianity, but it was really born after World War II. Like, it was used so heavily as a bludgeon afterwards, and it was pushed because the Masonically funded Schofield Bible. The Schofield Bible publication was all about trying to create this allegiance with Zionism. And that's the reason why everyone's fallen for this, because the church has been totally usurped. So this is like an intentional effort from the people who own all the media as well. Like, they understand that they cannot actually fight the warrior class of Northern America if they knew the truth, which is the reason why they have to push this crazy myth that Jesus was that's all they have to push, which is the reason why everyone repeats it, even though he was more likely an Assyrian-speaking Galilean. And everybody has to say that, because if Jesus was then to subvert Zionism, to cut that allegiance out, would be like you're cutting off the Messiah himself, right?
Right.
That's the whole thing. But actually, there's actually no evidentiary backing that Mary was as well. So it's just, there's all these things that have been supplanted in the American people so that they basically have allegiance to Zionism.
Right.
And if you only see this if you read it yourself. That's what I'm saying.
But I mean, even discussions like that, to me, sort of remind me of like the left versus right psyop, where it's like, while we're all sitting here bickering about left versus right, while
we're all bickering here about Jesus was or not.
Yeah, it's like we're sitting here bickering about.
But it matters to them, so it's just better to know what the truth really is and what they're supplanting. And you don't even need to get involved. I understand. Like, it's just knowing what the actual reality is backed by.
Like, I don't care about knowing whether Jesus was a Jew or not, or I don't care about any of that. I care that children are being blown up, and that's wrong. Period.
And the reason why children are being blown up is because there's a faith who literally hates
Jesus. Of course. I get that. But that doesn't, they're being misguided to hate this character, this person, Jesus. Them being misguided through their religious belief does not then validate the opposite religious belief, is my point. What if they're all wrong and y'all are just fucked up, you know? What if y'all are just fucked up?
I would say I think they are all wrong in regards to how they're utilizing the grace of God, for sure. Because God has given us this free will to do what we want, of course. And we're all abusing it negatively, of course.
That's a funny one as well, the God giving us free will thing. People will say, God gave us free will. And it's like, did you have a say in that?
Well, we're experiencing. I mean, it's...
But if you didn't have a choice in whether you had free will or not, did you really have free will?
Well, freedom is just sort of like intrinsically in it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just sort of noted in the programming.
Right. And I think morality is intrinsic in us, you know? Like, I mentioned the example of like you see these cute videos on the internet of like a dog when the mom and dad bring home the new baby from the hospital and they have the family dog who's like, how does the dog know to be so gentle with a baby? How does a dog know when you're having a panic attack?
I was actually just watching videos about that as well. It is an amazing thing, but my point is that what's going to stop the dog when it gets older from not growling at and ripping off the baby's face? Well, if he's conditioned properly to do so. And that's why I'm saying what's going to create a more likely societal stabilization of that. If religion is really just about scaling values, which is what it's always been historically, if you look at every emperor, like which is going to give us the best bang for your buck is what I'm saying.
Understood. And I think at least ideally what I would like to see is a scaling of values that comes from things that are inherent within us.
And like I said in the beginning of this conversation, I hope so too. Am I going to hold my breath for it? No.
But you say you hope so too. So let's say that magically,
it's just not going to happen. It's not realistic. It's in the same way, like whenever I hear white nationalists say, yeah, that's why we need to make America completely white again so we can get rid of these. I'm like, yeah, but that's just not realistic because anyone who's actually born here is just not going to leave. Like it's just about realism. Like, is it going to happen or not? It's not going to happen.
The immigration one, I think, is a bit of a false equivalence because I agree with you. People who were born there are not going to leave. No, but it's the same way they talk
when they say that. It's just like, we're just going to do this though. I'm like, yeah, but that's not going to happen.
But I think it's much more reasonable to suggest and hope that people would stop believing in fairy tales than it is to suggest that people who were born in a certain country go back to...
Yeah, but the people who actually believe in Jesus Christ and follow his teachings, they don't believe it's a fairy tale. They believe these are moral lessons that will make their life significantly better.
Right, and I believe the same about Spider-Man. The difference is if I went one step further and said I literally believe in Spider-Man as a real person, you would think I'm crazy.
Yeah, but Spider-Man is... Like, Spider-Man doesn't give me any of that. It doesn't give me any of that.
Okay.
It never has.
Okay.
Even as a kid, I was like, Spider-Man's cool.
You know?
But whatever.
You even mentioned the thing when I said the whole be kind, help others, work hard. You said those were the values that, Jesus represented.
Well, Jesus said a lot more than that. And a lot, again, like I've noticed whenever I talk to people who just have this disdain for Christianity, they don't, like they're always preaching about the Old Testament, and that's fine, but the whole point of the New Testament was for Jesus to say, this is what happens over and over again, the Tower of Babel, the flood, over and over again. It's what happens when man believes that he is God and just does whatever he wants. Look, power corrupts. You understand this, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And what happens is basically they're saying, when you don't actually believe that there is, I guess, like a overarching moral structure, well then, what is right and wrong? Like most human beings, maybe you don't. But many people, they need something to compare it up against. And the problem is that when a lot of people don't have a belief in God, morality isn't based on what was told. It becomes on what you can get away with. And a lot of people, they say, yeah, well, I'll act this way and I would never do such a thing. But when push comes to shove, we see how compromised many people actually were when information is exposed. Turns out that they needed something to actually compare themselves from. And having Jesus is the ultimate way of at least, and it's a graceful one as well. And again, obviously, you're going to see a ton of Christians who always fall short, and I do that every day. But that's a part of the deal as well. That's also included. Right. I just don't know why anybody who actually understands what Jesus Christ represents would have a problem with it when it's about unconditional love. I see you as a brother because that's the way Jesus acted. And I'm like, that makes sense. And I can feel it through him.
Yep.
And it's the same way when you have a son or a daughter, they're going to have that same expression with you. They look at you and they learn that from looking at you.
Right.
You know, what if it's not just about having that relationship with your father, but what if there's a father above? And it doesn't mean it's like a human being once again, but there is a moral way we should act according to the way the universe was designed. What if that was true? That's all I'm throwing out there.
In respect of that point, I kind of look at Jesus as like the ultimate superhero. You know, he's like the ultimate superhero that you would want to be inspired by and sort of take direction from based on how he lived his life, or at least how it's purported that he lived his life. But I still think at this, and not even but, and also I think you could do the same with Spider-Man, Batman, etc.
But then they all had different tinges to them. Like Batman's in a fucking Speedo and shit, and he had all this crazy, like, come on, like, it's
But
not
I mean,
the same
what's
thing.
more ridiculous, that Spider-Man could have been swinging around from buildings, or that
What's the
a man
evidence that there's
walked
spider
on
webs
water?
on the ground?
Sorry?
Whenever we get to scientific truth on the Bible, it sort of like dismisses the moral point of why people read the Bible in the first place. They're not reading it because they're like, oh yeah, now we need to look for the wood that was made from Noah's Ark. That's not the draw.
And I'm not even putting my chips on that. I don't even care about that.
Yeah, because Christians, honestly, if you talk to like 100 Christians, like 99 won't even care about what you're talking about.
And I think that's another quibble, another distraction. It's like, was the Ark real? Well, there's some wood that was dated and says that it could. I don't care.
Christians don't care about that at all. The point is they're saying we're getting moral truth from this, and it makes your life better. That's all they're saying, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. To your credit, when I was living in Thailand for most of the last 2 years, you see some people who are really poor, and you see how there's not really opportunities for upward economic or, socioeconomic mobility. And there are some situations where I even recognize that my ability to not have a belief in a higher power is like a sign of privilege in itself, because I really do understand when people are from poorer places that it's almost like you do need some sort of belief in something greater.
Yeah,
because
you're looking at the pain cushion that I guess the belief in God can give you. I'm looking at it as more so that what undergirds civilization, what built most of culture, was men who believed in God. So we take advantage of these things. So we have privileges that are based on that. And if that is removed, that's the whole point of Nietzsche saying God is dead. He wasn't celebrating. He was saying this is terrible because now we're going to replace it with celebrity worship, influencer culture, social media. And what's going to happen is we're going to become less monogamous. We're not going to have children. Everything's going to fall apart. That was his point.
Isn't religion, though, to that point, also the basis of all of the conflict as well?
Which religion?
I think it would be disingenuous to suggest that any religious person, a Muslim, a Christian, or doesn't think that theirs is the best and wouldn't love it if everyone in the world subscribed to their religion.
Listen, you believe being an atheist is the best. Of course, whatever you believe, you need to actually own up and live that. So, yeah, I mean, that just makes sense because you're living that. That's your belief system. You're operating under that. But my point is that all the conflicts, even everyone always mentions the Crusades, but the Crusades were justified. For example, like that's the one thing they turn on Christians. What about the Crusades or the Salem witch trials? I'm like, okay, you're gonna find or Torquemada's burnings. Like, sure, I can understand some of that. Of course, there's always gonna be. If I look at any domain in human history, it's gonna see a lot of vitriolic things if I dig it up deep enough. But the Crusades is the number one thing mentioned, but it was completely justified. There's a book called God's Battalion, and it was basically about how there were these giant Muslim hordes at the time that were literally decimating, raping, and pillaging the Christian tribes here and all these villages. So they basically fought back. The Crusades were completely falsely propagandized as well. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, yeah, I'm not saying Christianity has been perfect. Of course, there's a Council of Nicaea and how Constantine used it in a way to like keep people fundamentalist in a certain way as well. He literally says Christianity is great for brainwashing a lot of the people and the masses. I get that as well. Like I've read a lot of the criticism, but I'm still looking at it more simply on most people, they want to have something that they can anchor themselves on. And if it works for them,
right, I
don't see any problem with that.
Right. As long as you're not using it to justify harming other people or look at other people as less, right?
Right now, what's going on is supremacy in the Middle East. It's not
right.
Like Christians wouldn't do this because literally Jesus would be like, what is this? Like the most anti-Christian thing right now is happening in the Middle East to brown kids overseas because I guess they're, for the greater settlement project, but what is more anti-Christian than mass child genocide?
Of course. Also, tell me what you think of this. To criticize my own worldview for a second here, I also do wonder if all of a sudden the entire world was atheist, is there some sort of inherent tribalism in us as humans that would cause us to start squabbling over something else like race or height or geography or language or something?
That's kind of what I'm saying.
I do wonder that. Do you think that?
Well, it's all boils down to, Marco, is do you believe that this is, again, like I said, it's a power vacuum where things will get replaced because the human mind will always replace things like a mirror. I do. I believe that because just from looking at human psychology, I personally believe that. And that's why we have these crazy cult like the manosphere and the red pill. We talked about it. Looks maxing is a new one. There's all these different mutations of the same spirit of worshiping something to feel like they can anchor themselves to a purpose. And the whole notion is that if you anchor yourself to God and only fear God, then everything sort of looks the way it's supposed to be. And yes, you can say, but what about these cultic, retarded communities that lead you astray? That's why I say, for me, I can only speak for myself, brother. Fuck everyone.
Okay.
That's where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Christ is king. Fuck everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. I've always been clear about the shit.
And so I guess my question, I hope you can answer this in a sort of like, I don't know if it's a yes or no, but I'm going to try my best to ask it that way. Is like, before when I was talking about my ideal society or whatever, and you said, I wish it could be, but I don't think it can be. Does that mean that you are choosing this because you think it's the most likely to actually spread and unify people?
I also like it.
You also like it, for sure, and you also found personal value, but do you literally believe it to be true?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because, see, I agree with you up until that point. I agree that it is probably the right
So you're like where Jordan Peterson left off before he like went
I don't even know what that guy's deal is.
Okay, so Jordan Peterson basically got to that point. He said that, like, I believe it's Christianity, if we can utilize it proper, will be so useful. It's so useful that it's true. And in the interview, he said, well, do you believe that Jesus Christ was actually God who came in man form?
Ah, I see.
And then he just basically said, no, I don't believe any of that. I think, I like
weird, very weird.
Yeah.
I don't like how he's like very wishy-washy. Like, remember he did the 20v1 thing and the Jubilee thing?
Yeah, he kind of dropped the ball there.
And it was like 20 atheists versus 1 Christian, and then they had to change the title to say 20 atheists versus Jordan Peterson because he refused to even say if he was a Christian.
It's he's not a Christian.
No, I know, but it's like stand on business for what you believe or don't believe in. You know what I mean? Like I'm not ashamed to say like no, I don't.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I love real shit. Right, so you're being real. These are the only people I want to talk to. Jordan Peterson, he's snake in the grass. He's a Christian. He's like this powerful, well-spoken guy who has these nice, colorful suits, but he's never going to actually just say, yeah, this was the way. This is what I actually believe. He wants to use whatever's in his favor, and this is kind of my point. A lot of people, they don't want to put themselves outside of the seat of their power, and I understand because there's a lot of reliability is scarce, as you know.
Yeah.
But you don't need to put your faith in any people. I don't trust like that, man. I move very carefully.
Yeah.
But I trust God. But that doesn't mean I'm trusting any man. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Got you.
And if you want to look at me as like, wow, this guy's perfectly insane, but he's got it. That's fine too.
No, I don't think you're insane at all. I would tell you if I thought you were, for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jordan Peterson, I think he was probably somebody who, if you were one of these people in the last like 5-6 years who went on a sort of truth-seeking, transformative journey, he was somebody you stumbled across at a point, and then probably you were like, okay, this guy isn't actually it. Because I remember in 2022, again, this is before October 7th, before I had a wider understanding of what this really was. I was watching like Daily Wire, like Jordan Peterson, Matt Walsh. I thought Matt Walsh was like based. Like I used to watch like, even when I was a teenager, you remember those old videos of Ben Shapiro when he was like, he destroys college person with his love. I mean, I think we all were there at one point as like a 16-year-old, like thinking Ben Shapiro was based. But bro, back then, you know what's crazy? I didn't even know until like
it was slop. It was.
Yeah. But it was so early though that was like what based was to us. With facts don't care about your feelings, which ironically I feel like he needs to be told the same thing nowadays.
Yeah.
Back in those times, not only did I not have any sort of like recognition of how to tell if somebody was or not, like I didn't even know about the hats back then. But bro, I swear his hat has gotten bigger because in those old videos, he has black hair. He would wear the black hat. It like blended in. Like I didn't even notice the hat until like a few years ago, honestly.
Yeah, I mean that entire for me, one of my greatest enemies I want to dismantle is conservative Inc.
Okay, is that like Daily Wire type?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the entire infrastructure of conservative right wing influencing. It's LARPy costume-wearing slop. These people are pretending like they're on the right, we care about these things, but they're hypocritical cons who are basically wearing a costume, no different than the left. I actually don't look at the loony left that differently. And people always say, like, what are you talking about? Like, the left, they want transgenderism in your children and all this. I'm like, yeah, but they're right. They don't actually live by those values as well. I'll tell you something private and intimate and funny, I guess publicly now, is I used to be invited to all these circles. Like, I went to the CPAC party, and all of those right-wing influencer people who talk about traditional values, they're all fucking each other. They're all hypocrites. So I've come to realize that, no, they just want to make money. Just like the left, they care about power and wealth. They don't actually care about standing on what they really believe morally, like we're talking about here. And once I saw that, I'm like, okay, these are just a den of snakes. It doesn't really matter. So you see the red ants in the jar and the black ants in the jar, and it's like, oh, which side are you fighting or rooting for? I care about who shakes the jar, okay? Because that's when they start fighting, actually. And that's what I'm realizing, that this conservative ink slop is a bigger problem to me than the radical left ever will be, because they are saying controlled opposition talking points. So while you're like, yeah, but you know what? The red hat, speaking like a bold guy, man, that's my guy. I'm like, well, actually, this is the ultimate psychological operation, so you remain divided and conquered. And that's why I call it Con Inc., Conservative Incorporated. It's an entire establishment industry, and I think like Patrick McDavid is a perfect example of that.
Yep.
You know, he talks with a suit. He talks like this. He thinks he's going to get you all convinced, but actually, he's just another retard shill who's going to fall in line towards Zionist interests.
Yep.
I am pro-humanity and for protecting kids. That's pretty much my bar is so low now, just from being bludgeoned by no positive leadership for how many decades. It's so simple. You just have to not be a pedophile and not take money from Israel. Like, it's so simple at this point. I don't really care about even if you're on the left or right. Just don't be a fucking pedophile and don't take money from Israel and don't be going to that island. Like, it's that simple for me.
Why the fuck did you go to that island? Yeah.
I know some niggas who went to that island.
Yeah.
You
Honestly, you said it so well, and I was actually going to say what you just said more or less, where it's like, I'm a one-issue guy.
I'm so easy now, man.
I'm so easy now. I don't
Pedo
care.
or not. And it's crazy how many there are.
I know.
It's like most of them.
Yeah, I've made this joke on my live stream before where, like, I think some YouTuber had just recently gotten exposed for, like, sending messages to a child. And I was like, I went on my live stream. I was like, welcome back, everybody, to the show hosted by the one YouTuber who isn't a pedophile, I guess. Because it's like, how hard is it not to... How hard is it?
I don't know why. It's like, what is that? And I don't know, man. It's just...
Yeah.
People are sick, man.
But look, I agree with what you were saying about the Con Inc. Like, left and right, it's two wings of the same bird, in my opinion.
Exactly.
And I am a one-issue guy now. I don't care if you're Christian. I don't care if you're atheist. I don't care if you're Muslim. I don't even care if you're... Are you a good person? Are you okay with harming people? Whether that's blowing up children, scamming people through multi-level marketing schemes, talking out one side of your mouth. Like, I did a podcast recently where, since you mentioned Patrick Bet-David, they talked about how on the podcast, he was totally different than off air in terms of what he believed. Like, on his show, he's interviewing Netanyahu, but off air, apparently he was all anti-Israel. And it's like, I think I said this before about Patrick. I think he just says whatever is going to get him to that next step. I don't think he actually truly believes anything.
That's disgusting.
This is my thing. Like you said, just be real. Be a good person. Stand on business. Stand next to me as somebody who protects children, who does the right thing. Honestly, like, I don't care what your views are on anything else. Just don't be, literally, just don't be a fucking pedophile.
It's that easy.
How hard is it? Don't be a pedophile. Don't be trying to, like, advocate for some sort of supremacy, racial or otherwise.
Yeah.
Don't be cool with blowing up kids. Don't scam people. Like, don't commit willing acts of deception or harm.
It's good versus evil.
It is.
And, you know, I'm realizing that so many people who might do maybe some inappropriate things or I may not agree with, well, they're still on the side of good. They might not be walking a straight and narrow path. That's okay.
Sure.
That's okay. But I'm starting to see that, like, there's a bigger picture. And as I step back and look at the bird's eye view, I just want to focus on the actual head of the snake that's causing all this. All these problems we're talking about, they've been trickulated from the same source, and everything else is sort of secondary. I can get into the weeds with these people, but I wish them well. I hope the best for them. I hope they see the light of God. and it is what it is. Otherwise, I'm not like a forceful guy. I just have my beliefs, but I do believe as a man, it is also in us. We have an imperative to stand up for what's right and defend innocence. And the most innocent thing is children, of course.
Yep.
And I think that's why they're always, actually, I know why they're always getting children involved, is because if you can do something to a child, you can do anything. That's the essential idea.
Yeah. And if you can get away with it, then by that logic, you can get away with anything.
I did a very deep dive into this as well because I come from the art world. And, there's a woman named Marina Abramovich.
I know her.
And there's all these dark people. It's funny because some of the based right, they're calling me the anti-Abramovich because I make art, but it's in the side of the light, right? And it's funny because a lot of this demonological stuff that happens in meeting place and congregations of the elite, they use the art world. It's really creepy. It's very dark and nefarious.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because art is subjective, which is a great blanket for them to do weird things.
It's a shield.
Which is a stepping stone. It's the absolute shield. And I done my research in this in conjunction to just some of the weird, peculiar people that I ran across in the art world who are so supremacist. They're so derogatory for people who are outside, which already irked me and turned me off. But the reason why they do all these weird illicit practices, like anytime we see weird things, like the Epstein emails talking about how, like, yeah, dress her up as this character so I can do this, or X, Y, and Z. The reason is because, yes, there's honeypotting and Mossad aspects to it, but I've come to realize it's much deeper than that. I want you to put yourself in the shoes, Marco. Imagine, okay, let's do a little thought experiment. And if you're listening here, Marco and I were both 10 years old, okay? And we just did something fucked up on the playground. And we're both being told to go to the principal's office together, okay? Now, we're sitting here right now waiting for the principal, right? We look at each other, right? We're brothers for life now. We're thick as thieves. There's a loyalty. You see what I'm saying? You remember that shit? I remember when I was a kid, I got in trouble with this guy. And I was like, yo, we're not going to slip a word. We have an alliance now. That's the point. When you do fucked up dark things together, the forbidden fruit is bitten together, and those bonds create a shared unity.
Yes.
And the reason why they're always sexual is you read, this is where my tutelage comes in because I'm an art history nerd. You just read throughout history, sex was always used as a bonding force in secret societies or for strategic acumen. Like there's something called the Sacred Band of Thebes, Thebes. And these were, America likes to romanticize the 300 Spartan warriors, right? Like there's these badass uber masculine guys. That's Hollywood pop icon slop. Actually, I'm sorry to burst a bubble to those people who put pride in their Roman ancestry. They're all having homosexual relationships with each other, which made them so tight so that their fighting now is like something of divinity because they're all one unit together. And I'm just using that as an example because sex is used for bonding. And sex is also used for bonding at the elite. And if you look at any of the Freemasonic literature, Bohemian Grove, the reason why they do these weird hazing sexual things with each other is because that creates a bond better than any side of national allegiance. They care about each other then. So they'll fuck over anyone, including the Gentiles. And understand, now, if you understand that part, in conjunction to the fact that now there's a faith that creates a chosen status, and that's another pipeline for this Kabbalah union, then it's going to create this underbelly where it's only them together, commiserating, doing fucked up things together. And that's what Epstein Island was, no different than Pizzagate.
It's also a blackmail thing too, right? Where it's like insurance on each other. It's like, well, if you tell on me, I'm going to tell on you.
It's a blackmail thing for chosen doing it on Gentiles, for the inner circle doing it on those who are not a part of their genetic lineage.
Right.
But amongst each other, it's bonding. It's pure bonding. That's
so fucked up.
But it makes sense because, that's why when MS-13 or Crips or Bloods, these gangsters, they see a little kid, they said, we need to know that you're now a part of our tribe. You need to do some heinous criminal act together. So if it's sex with criminality together, they're in. That's going to make them have a relationship with those who they did those illicit activities together with deeper than like their family or significant other.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point about people doing wrong together and then like being part of unified in that sense.
Yeah, crime is a way of bonding too. People forget that.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I think it says a lot that even in prisons, they look down on pedophiles. Like they will kill pedophiles in prison. So doesn't that tell you something about how truly evil it is that even hardened criminals in prison who may have murdered people before are like, oh, that guy's a chomo? Like,
pedophiles are the lowest of human filth.
Absolutely. Do you ever do this thing where you'll be in like a plane or in a restaurant and you look around and you're like, if some shit goes down, I wonder which of these guys is gonna like give me the look and like rush the guy with the knife, or like which of these guys is actually gonna stand on business and which of these guys is gonna be like scared and try to run and hide. Do you ever do that?
I mean, let me look. I mean, yeah. I mean, if I see somebody like that, then that's a interesting dark scenario. But yeah, I've probably done that a couple times, right?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's just something you said made me think of it, like the being unified, right? It's like you can almost
You can do it in a positive way too.
in a
That's
positive
true.
way. That's what I'm
true.
saying. It's like
That's a good point.
rather than us being like, you mentioned in the principal's office example where it's like we're in this together. It's like I try to do that in a positive.
You can definitely do it in a positive way. That's what a lot of, like, obviously, I'm very anti-joining the military, but a lot of people who've served together, they say that the brotherhood I have
Yep.
with the person I was in a trench with is deeper than my wife, believe it or not.
Yep.
I'm like, what the hell?
Same with gym or like MMA or like Muay Thai. Like the bond that I feel
Some
with
of my judo partners, like,
Yep.
I remember thinking, like, I got this motherfucker's back because he made me into a better fighter and I feel more competent now, so that every time I go out on the street, I feel skilled because this person made me stronger.
Yep.
These bonds can be done in a positive way. But I will say that for purposes of understanding what the elite does, the combination of crime and sex, like, they're going to be so connected, man.
Yeah.
The positive way is amazing. And that's ideally what you do with, that's what marriage is. It's a public spectacle in front of everyone, where everyone's seeing you
Yeah.
two, your family's approving of it. It's creating this very deep tie, but that can be done in a satanically inverted way, in a negative way. And that's what we see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You tweeted something that I thought was interesting because this wasn't expected for me. You tweeted greatest evils in numerical order. I expected number one to be Zionism because that's what I know you for talking about. But you put it in this order: paganism, feminism, Zionism, gerontocracy, manosphere, veganism, bipartisanship, postmodernism, WEF dietary guidelines, medical industry, ugly people, and childishness. Why did you put feminism above Zionism? I really wasn't expecting you to put feminism as number two ahead of Zionism.
Well, I hope I don't trigger all the very few female subscribers and supporters that I have, but the bottom line is every civilization that has ever fallen apart came from female sexual liberation. There's a book called Sex and Culture by J.D. Unwin, and this man, he wrote his magnum opus on studying 86 different civilizations through over 5,000 years of recorded history. And you notice all of them, Sumerians, Romans, Babylonians, all of them, once they liberated their females sexually, they all mistreated their men, and then they all collectively turned on them, and everything started to unveil and fall apart from there. And it sounds very antiquated for me to say, oh, so men should just control women and blah, blah, blah. Well, every society was upright and built from that momentum. He actually called it expansive energy, which is men collectively wanting to localize a sexual partner. So they need to work together to build something so that it's safe to inhabit these women. But then the women usually turn that against the men. So
Interesting.
Yeah. So this has been documented from a dissertation that this man wrote. And frankly, like, this is the reason why so many things are lost astray today. Because, yeah, we can talk about, the problem with Zionism 100%. And I do believe that globally, if we're going to talk geopolitics, this is the biggest problem in the world. But we need to also keep in mind problems in our own sensorium, like our own responsibilities as well, that aren't just macro, also the micro, our own personal lives. And what is the most contentious thing that men are always struggling with constantly? It's the opposite sex, because they say hypergamy is on steroids, whatever you want to call it, all this. But essentially, it comes from the fact that when women are given free reign to have all this power, they usually use it in a very narcissistic manner, especially when it comes to sexual energy.
Interesting. I've also read that there's like an economic element to it too, where by giving women, for example, the right to work and the right to vote, that now you can tax another half of the population that wasn't getting taxed before. And also you have another subset of the population who their vote in an election might go towards negating their husband's vote, which is
Yes.
You know, like
I
if
almost feel like every household should have one vote after it discusses it with their family, fine, which
Right.
is the man, the father. And understand, like, yeah, I am advocating for patriarchy, but I will also say that, it's an uncomfortable truth because essentially what I'm saying is, as a matter of fact, the social contract is basically tossed out the window. And that social contract was me as a man, I will work 5 times harder than you. I'll do everything I have to do to provide for you and your child. All I ask is for your fidelity, your commitment to only have sex with me, and to raise my children. And that was the deal, right? But it's basically tossed by the wayside. And I understand, that is kind of a sign. You talked about the privilege of being atheistic because you have the luxury to be this way. There's also the privilege of having a feminist society because only societies that have successfully accomplished their own growth and expansion are able to be feminist in the first place. So I do see like how that could be looked upon as a green flag, but ultimately it means so many men are going to be left in the dust because what happens as a result is it bottlenecks sexual selectivity even higher, where now the men have to be so much more credible and competent for the woman to consider them in a way.
And we're seeing that now, right?
We're definitely seeing that. And we're seeing that in a very bleak way too, because I'm just going to be honest, keep it a stack. We're being shown that when women are given the choice, now that they have options, because they can work for themselves now, and, back then it was, hey, fresh eggs for resources, that was sort of the barter, and now women can make their own money. And what happens with that is that the highest priorities of sexual selectivity in women now are becoming genetic indicators in men. Being tall or attractive, and the looks maxing phenomena is true in this regard. Those are qualities that are becoming more important for a lot of women today. And I don't think that's a positive. I think that's always been the case, but now they can be open about it. But I still think that should all be a means to an end. And that's my issue with all these looks maxing things as well, because there's truth in it. But the reason for doing so is because you wanted to have the sustained, meaningful life of being a father. That's what I wanted. I can speak for myself. The whole point of all of the self-improvement to get women to find you attractive is because I want to be a dad, personally. So I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I wanted to be a father because that's going to be the deepest, most meaningful experience. So that's why I want to find a good woman, right? And yeah, if you improve yourself, you'll have more optionality. And today, what's happened now is that women want they want the whole package deal. And what's more difficult to get in that regard, which is what their gaze is going to be more set towards, is things that are less pliable for change. Because we can make money. We can figure that out. You can hustle for a couple of years. You can get new opportunities. But there's things that you can't change. And that's where there's a bleak black pill associated with it. And that's why many men prefer to go overseas, because then you're going back to a place that has a lower socioeconomic living where the women now are going to look at men with that gaze. I understand their argument, but I also understand that I'm trying to find a positive here, but it's just, it's going to be very bleak for so many men. And I will say, there's a word called incel. The incel population is going to grow so much, and it's going to become such a problem eventually that I would even predict some kind of revolt will happen from incels. I know that sounds crazy, but I say this because women just don't give a fuck. And I'll tell you how bad it is. I'm not saying they want to like kill them. Like, obviously I can't say that on YouTube. They don't want them to be dead, but if women had a Thanos snap, they would get rid of all the men they find unfuckable. This is where we're at. And then they don't even need to communicate with each other. It's just embedded in their female nature. Their genealogy just has that perspective. And what happens as this is only going to accelerate in this direction? What does that look like in 10, 20 years? Well, the men who don't have like genetically superior qualities, they're all cooked.
Yeah.
And also, that's also the westernization. It's not a westernization. It's just what happens when civilizations become more metropolitan and successful. It's going to happen across the world eventually too.
Right.
So it looks very bleak, but there's going to be some kind of buildup eventually where incels might just, like I'll tell you right now, like I made a video on YouTube called Patriotism Doesn't Exist If You Can't Get Laid. And the reason why is because why would any fucking person want to go out of their house and fight for their nation when their women don't even give them the time of day and they look at them as a piece of shit?
Or they don't even have a castle and a woman to
what's
defend.
the fucking point?
Yeah,
That's my point. And my point is that feeling is only gonna grow.
Right.
And yes, like don't get me wrong. Like I talk to a lot of, I guess what you want to call alpha winners. Like I know a lot of these guys who are like very successful, handsome. They're doing very well, and they're like, yeah, but those guys just need to man up. I'm like, you don't understand. Like they're literally put in a category where they can't man up. It doesn't matter. They don't understand because they're looking at it from rose-colored glasses. And eventually, sociologically, this is going to become such a problem where people are just going to be checking out of working and participating in society altogether. And that when they want to push another military-industrial complex psyop onto us, they just won't care. And things will all fall apart. And this all happened because from the beginning, female sexual liberation. That's the butterfly effect is my point.
And I'm sure you could... It's obvious you don't need to go into it, but I'm sure you could go into who were the big pushers of these liberation movements and the institutions behind them all lead back to the same origination.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sad because if you look at every large scale societal problem, like 99% of them, and without even trying to do this, whereas Waldo game, but it always stems from them. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
There's
Also,
a reason why they've been expelled from 109 countries.
You talked about incels, but there's also like the vol cells, like voluntary celibate men who are just checked out, who are like, I mean, I've talked to guys who are like,
but very few are actually voluntary celibate. I will be honest to dispel this cope. There is voluntary celibacy. I have seen it, but most men, it's more so that they understand, and this is right of them. I'm not throwing shade. I agree with them. Their gut is saying the risk and effort is not worth the return. So it's not even that, oh, you know what? They're much more saying, I can't get what I want, but if I do get what I want, by the time I get it, I'm just fucking done. Like I don't want to be a sacrificial lamb to appease some woman.
Right.
So it's just not worth the effort.
There's also, I guess this wouldn't come down to celibacy in the terms of like sex, because there are a ton of guys who would go through the hassle, I guess, if you will, of having sex with a girl. But when it comes to actually like, do I want to marry this girl? Do I want to like get married at all, have kids? It's like, there's a lot of that apathy as well, where it's like, I've talked to men who are like, yeah, I'll hang out with her. But it's like, am I going to get married? It's like, she has had 10 boyfriends before me and has this expectation, that expectation. Like, I'm good.
I was talking to, oh my gosh, I'm not going to name these people, but I know some guys who are like Hugh Hefnerish.
Right.
Okay, like they fly out models and whatever. Like I know a couple of these guys. Actually, I know pretty much the 5 that come to your mind.
Right.
And I'm not going to name anyone in particular, but even they will tell me things. In today's epoch, like a girl who has had less than 5 bodies is so rare that you should look at that girl as like virgin marriage material. And these are guys who are like who have all the money in the world. And this is where we are with the current state of affairs of the world.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so this is where we are, where it's like if I was to give realistic, practical advice, and I know we want to be idealists here, we want the best of the world, but we are, I'm sorry, but the bad times create... Yeah. We are in the epoch where everyone, including high-value men men who are like crushing it, like these guys own yachts and shit. Like, what the fuck, right? Like, this is a lot of power. They're tall and handsome. These guys I know, they're saying most of this world is leftovers. That's the epoch we were born in, right? So if I was to give realistic advice, and I'm sorry this might disappoint people, but find someone realistically in your looks range, go a little bit lower if you have to, commit to that person, or go overseas and understand, though, that you will have to be economically providing much more as like a much more clear-cut transactional situation. Because the whole reality of sexual dynamics is it's either, look, as attraction decreases, transaction increases. And same goes the other way around. That's why you see these old bags in Miami with these 18-year-old girls, because it's very clearly a wallet situation.
And in Thailand.
Of course. That's what I'm saying. So it's always attraction versus transaction. If you are cool with transactional means, great, good for you. If you are able to be happy with that, fine. Personally, I do want a burning desire. I want a woman who likes me, actually wants me.
Yeah.
If that's what you want, then you need to also look at the lens with the reality of the circumstance today.
For sure.
I'm just being fair because I've seen literally at the top, and I've also spoken to guys in incel forums. Like, I've seen the whole range. Like, I've literally partied with guys who have like they have so much money and they can just fly out basically top OnlyFans girls and shit.
Yeah.
You know, like I've hung out with these guys and I'm like, okay, so what I'm seeing based on experiencing and tasting both and understanding the reality of the current climate, that is the most fair thing I can say.
Right.
Just to be honest.
Also, a note about feminism is you talked a lot about the ramifications it's had on men. I also think that it's a huge psyop that's been played on women and how it's victimized women. This idea of being a boss babe and being this self-sustaining thing
So miserable.
it is so miserable and is really the underlying philosophy engine of what causes all these multi-level marketing boss babes to pursue this path to begin with. More than 80% of people involved in multi-level marketing companies across the board are women. And do I think that would be, yes. And do I think that would be the case if this boss babe ideology wasn't so pervasive? No, I don't. Even the whole, I guess this would classify as sexual liberation, like when Beyonce or you name whatever female celebrity, especially female rappers, when they go on stage or in a music video and they're like pretty much naked and all the songs are about my pussy this and, you know, it's like telling girls that that's like female empowerment when the same message from a male rapper about fucking bitches and whatever is looked at as misogynistic is such a blatant hypocrisy that's so harmful to girls because it's like that's telling them that you're liberated. If, you know, if you got it, flaunt it. It's like, what about modesty? What about like, am I a boomer for saying that? It's like, that's not actually
I mean,
helping you.
Yeah, I mean, we're both boomers then. Because that's the reality is what we find the most valuable in a woman is, for me, it's her femininity.
I agree.
You know, it's that feminine docility. It's almost like it's so pure, you know? And I just don't see that anywhere, man. It's very scarce, and I will say that it just looks very bleak. Looks very bleak for the vast majority of men.
Tell me about it, bro. I just turned 30 years old. I mean, I look around, and I don't want to sound like a doomer when I say this, but it's like, I almost...
Misery loves company, I'd say, but you're not the only one. Like understand, understand, like, I literally... Like, I'm not going to name these people, but, like, I've told you off the phone, like, some of these guys. Like I know a guy, he's a fucking model, and he makes good money. And he's like, I can't commit to these women.
Yep.
It's like, where are we?
Not even just relationships, bro. I mean, the whole time I was growing up, it was like, oh yeah, make enough to be able to own a house. Now it's like, that's out of the question pretty much, owning a house. And it's like, would I even want to own a house if I could afford it? When I look around at how alien the environment around me has become, it's like, I look at my class photos from when I was a kid. I was like maybe one of a couple of brown kids. Most of the kids were white. Now I look at the class photos of like my nieces who are kids, and it's like they're mixed, but they look white. And they're the only two kids in the class who even look white. It's completely flipped. I don't know. It's like, I don't want to sound like a doomer when I say this, but it's like, I almost don't even look forward to anything. Which I know is such a doomer thing, but I am a very positive and like optimistic guy.
Let me tell you, you are the way guys feel. Guys are men are actually... Of course, there's time to be gray, but we're actually pretty black and white. Like, for a guy, if I'm going to be with a girl and she's just my type, she looks beautiful, she has all these qualities, but she talks to me patronizingly, then I don't even want to fucking bother her in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how we are, right? And so many guys are feeling what you feel, this collectivized notion of flipping the chessboard. That's why I was saying, something is going to happen because this is growing, where all these guys are just like, there's no point of working hard in a sick society where it's designed to kill me and make me feel like a piece of shit by myself. So eventually, as that keeps growing, they're going to go, like, what's going to happen? That's going to implode is my point, right? That's what I'm saying. And also the people who are chasing those solutions, you know, red pill, manosphere stuff, looks maxing, all those spaces, they also, once they get into the game, they get stuck there too. So once they get into a position where they can maybe acquire more sexual selectivity, they don't do that.
Right.
They stay on that forever because they feel like they missed out on young love. So they will forever just keep damaging and going and cycling through these girls, which ends up actually making them less desirable, contrary to popular thought, to actual virginic women as well. So I think the whole thing's kind of fucked. Or as the kids say, cooked.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah,
all
yeah.
cooked, right?
And I say this as somebody who like
We sound fucking old on the show.
I know,
by
I
the way.
know. I say this as somebody who's like, I'm probably doing pretty well compared to most 30-year-olds, I would think. I don't think I look terrible. You know, I still have great relationships, romantically speaking. I'm still very like, you know, kind and romantic and generous and all these things. But it's like, even the idea of getting married, it's like, I don't really know if I even want to get married. Whereas I was sure of that when I was a kid, because it's like, even if I did find the ideal partner, it's like, I don't know how we're both going to change in 10, 15, 20 years. And do I want to be married as a successful person when the system is set up where it's incentivized to divorce me? And like,
Yeah. You know what? I guess the libertarian true question every man should ask themselves, honestly, is do they want to have children? Because that will end up giving them, you know, the apparatus of how they're going to map their lives in that regard. So that's the real question. And if you do, then you're going to want a mother there who's going to be the source of a safe space for especially those growing ages. So that's the real question. And if they don't, then I guess go and get into your mogging shit and all that. That's fine.
I might have to do like a 50 Cent type situation where he like has an agreement with his baby mama where it's like they have the kid, but he's not with her.
Marco, what do you want, man? What do you want?
Honestly, like
A kid or what,
I really meant when I said it's like I don't even really
want. You don't want kids?
I'm uncertain at this point.
Okay, that's
like
cool.
I understand the reasoning and the appeal behind it, but I want to make sure if I have kids, I'm bringing them up not only to a point where I can provide for them, but like what environment am I bringing them up in? And so right now, I'm not where I want to be. I haven't established myself to the point where I can even think about that. Like it might not be in Canada.
But you know what? Kids care about love. A father's love more than money. That's like
yeah, I know, but I also care about the environment they'll be brought up in, which perhaps for me to have them in the right environment that I want will require money because it might not be Canada.
That's right.
You know, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your experience with multi-level marketing because that's what most of my subscribers know me for. You have an Amway story and an Herbalife story.
I don't know how much I remember, but yeah, when I was very young, I was scammed and bamboozled by both an Amway recruiter and an Herbalife recruiter who was my friend, a childhood friend who was getting into it, you know. And it's funny because I was a ripe age of 17, you know, 17, 19. They both happened in that sort of period. The Amway guy, there's this clothing store in America called Marshall's. And I was just there just getting different workout clothes. I can't remember exactly. But this guy just comes up to me. He's like, man, you look like a guy who likes staying fit. And he just comes at me like so strong.
Yep.
And I'm like 17 and I'm like, what's this guy, a fucking pedo? Like, what do you want from me? And he was like, I'm looking for guys just like you to have this financial opportunity. And you know, when you're young, everything is like a fictional moment. You know, it's like there's a reason something came in your life, right?
Right.
So I was just like, oh wow, holy shit. And then he's like, yeah, trust me. I'm gonna give you my card here, and I need you to text me. And his whole script. I get back home, and I'm like, you know what? At that time, I was working at like the mall. It's like, you know, just high school job. I'm like, this shit sucks. Maybe there's a faster way to make money. So I messaged this guy. He's like, okay, I want you to come over Thursday night. I want you to meet my wife, and it's blah blah blah, all this shit. I'm like, oh, what a friendly guy. He's like a Mormon. He's so kind. And I go there, and he has those folding chairs, and then there's 8 of them with a projector screen. This is in his basement. And I get there, I'm like, what the fuck is this? He made it seem so personal. And then he's like, oh, come have a seat. And then there's all these other guys that are on my age, and I'm like, what has my life become? And I just felt icked from it, right? But long story short, as I'm leaving, he gives me the DVD. He's like, you got to watch this and you'll be inspired. And the guy like heckled and chased me to give back his DVD so he can keep pitching to me for, I don't know, it was like 3 months. And he finally gave up.
Insane.
But that was just one. But all of these things, Herbalife as well. My friend was, you know, he had a lot of family problems. And he channeled all of that into his Herbalife family, right? Yep. He was one of those guys who came so gung-ho about it too. But needless to say, this is back then. I look at him now, and he's just like, he's like, yeah, that was a retarded time in my life. He had a whole Facebook post about it. But it's just crazy because it's always the same story. It's people who get bamboozled from these predators when they're young, and like myself, and they end up losing some money. Now that was more of loss of time and some money because I was supporting them to get a little products. I'll try it. I didn't even like it. It's just a little bit of it, but that same spirit has existed, and I will say, I can relate with people who have been fucked over. I really can, because I've been screwed over big time, like other things. The multi-level marketing people, they only wasted my time and, maybe a couple $100 each. It's not the end of the world, right? But I would say overall, from people selling me shit coins or people shilling me different things or representing me, and this is another thing.
Yep.
You never need an agent.
No, I delete all those.
Those are all irrelevant middlemen. I easily, I didn't want to say this, probably like $250,000. Like, I've lost so much fucking money with these people.
It would have costed you way more than they were paying you. They would have taken control or fucked you over somehow.
Brother, I've lost so much money that sometimes I think about it, and I just want to just go find them.
I know.
Now, it's all good. It is what it is. It's fine. There'll be new opportunities, and as men, we just keep producing more. It's fine.
Yep.
But it's disgusting. And I always tell people that if you're an artist or a content creator, whatever it is, you don't need anyone.
No.
You just need to make quality content, be real,
Yep.
and go from there. That's all you have to do.
Everything comes from that.
Yeah, nothing else matters. Don't buy into anything. I had a guy who's like, when they do the numbers for you? That's how they get you.
I'm a numbers guy.
Yeah, oh my gosh. This guy did all the numbers for me. It's like, if you're making this because I'm able to get you this, then you'll be making this every year. And I'm like, holy shit, I can take care of my family. You think about all the things you can do. And then he's like, yeah, but you got to first pay me, but this will, you got to pay me this up front. I fell for that many times.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But I was also already used to kind of a crooked, corrupt system because if you are represented by art galleries, they take 50% of everything you make anyways.
Damn.
That's already how it is. So I was already used to that. So I was like, okay, you have to pay to play. That's what I was conditioned to do. Yeah. So I was also conditioned in that way. But these people really burnt me over. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, I could have had a house.
Dude.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, man.
But it's okay. Like I don't, it is what it is, but this is a scar that I had to learn from, and it's all good.
Yep. Dude, scammers, financial scammers, multi-level marketing scammers, they're very well-versed in presenting you with these false equivalences or logical fallacies that pander to your pre-established beliefs. So like, for example, you mentioned you were already used to the pay-to-play concept with the art galleries. So when they tell you, oh yeah, this thing, you have to buy the $500 starter kit, you're investing in your own business, it sounds reasonable. Or like when they tell athletes, when they're trying to recruit them into some Herbalife or whatever, they might say like, for your fitness, you have to show up to the gym repeatedly before you start to see progress.
Fucking vultures.
Yeah, they are. They're complete vultures.
They're fucking vultures because most of the recruiters, they're just blindly ignorant people who fell for the trap.
Yep.
But these people know what they're doing.
Yes.
And with me, the reason why it's so crazy is because the people that fucked me over the most, they had credibility per se, like the image of it. They were with like one of the guys, he was actually like provably managing one, like a huge influencer. But then it turns out he was this irrelevant middleman, but he was charging this.
Insane.
And he was like, yeah, I can connect you with the same things. I'm like, okay, I'll do it just because you have credibility because this guy has a huge reach. Like he's a kind of a mainstream guy in the right-leaning circle if I name him. And I was like, wow, that's having that would be great because I am independent artist. I don't have galleries anymore because I've been banned by all of them. So I need to get my own reach. Tree falls in the forest. Did it really fall? No. If I don't announce that I'm the artist of these people, I mean, like now
Right.
I am the artist of the base, which is amazing because my collectors are now people who are all fighting for liberty. So it's awesome because now I'm an independent artist in that way. But usually you'd have a gallery and the dealer would do the pricing and all this and sell it for you. And all you have to do is make the art and they take half of it. But I have to pretty much do all that now.
So you paid this guy and he just ghosted you type thing?
He's like, he wrote me an email every week saying, here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm like, okay, cool. And then he's like, yep, I'm talking to this guy and he's going to get you on this show and then you're going to do this. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he just kept saying he's going to go forward. And then he's like, yep. And I just kept paying X amount, like quite a bit of money every month. And then I was like, okay, well, let's start booking these things. Let's start doing them. And then I'm like, I'm running out of fuel here, man. I'm paying you a lot of money. And he just like, yeah, it takes time. I'm like, it takes time for what? Either you do it or you don't. And then eventually I said, listen, I'm seeing no results. I'm throwing money out the window. He's like, yeah, but look at all I've done for you. I've reached out to these people. I'm like, anyone can say they reach out to people.
Yeah, I could have sent an email.
Yeah. And then, yeah, exactly. It's an email. And then,
Insane.
And he just ran off. But yeah, these all happen in like my early 20s. So when you're young and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, thank God that it happened before. You know, there's going to be a time in your life when you can't afford to lose that money.
But I also won Artist of the Year around that same range. So I was making so much money for that age where it was like, what the fuck? And this is before I was banned. But when I was working with these galleries, even if they took 50%, I was making stupid money and I blowed all of it.
Damn.
But it's okay.
Right.
Because now, like, also, how much money do I need? For me, I just need to make sure I have more than enough for, you know, taking care of the people I need to take care of, you know, and then I'm good. As long as I have that and more in security, I'm fine. But I did blow off like a ton of money.
Yeah. I'm going through the financial hurdles right now with the lawsuits, getting sued from my work about MLM companies getting sued. And I mean, it's amazing. It's truly awe-inspiring how the legal system can just be weaponized against you just because somebody has money. Like, it would actually be easier to go through a murder accusation right now, because if you're accused of murder and you can't afford a lawyer, they'll appoint a lawyer for you. That doesn't happen in a civil case, like a defamation case, for example. And also, the burden of proof is so high with murder, like beyond a reasonable doubt. But in civil litigation, it's like, it's more malleable than that. So I really wouldn't wish what I'm going through currently on my worst enemy. It's
Well, I'm sorry you're dealing with that, brother.
Yeah, thank you, man.
That's disgusting, but that just goes to show the face of these demons where, you know, if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about. And the fact that you're dealing with this insane litigation from these demons is because they want to keep everything underground and fester where they belong. And, you know, what the saying goes that hate only comes from below. Well, that's because these people want to drag you down to their level. And it's disgusting. So just endure, stay true to you, and you'll win.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
You will stand the test of time if you commit to that conviction. In time, you'll win.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been people who fought armies like this. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I hope so, dude, because I turned down all the crypto sponsorships, gambling, weird pharmaceutical stuff, vaping. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to promote any of that. And I've probably turned down, I've lost
like $1 million of opportunities.
Yeah, also. I've turned down tons of money because
I know exactly where you're coming from.
Because I just don't believe it's the right thing to do. And I hope that there's some sort of, even if it's not God, if it's karma, whatever it is, I hope it comes back to reward me in some way by...
You can sleep at night knowing that you stay true to your convictions always. And I'll tell you right now, I would rather any day of the week, I would rather be broke and real than fake and rich. Now, obviously, we want to be real and rich, but done the right way. And with me, I've always kept it a stack. I am an artist. You can buy my products. You can support me that way, but I'm also a person who's going to fearlessly fight for what I believe is right.
Yeah, me too.
And I believe that that's just the way to do it because, you know, materialism is great, sure. But that is not my God. That is not my axiom. My axiom is standing up for what's right and being fucking real.
Me too.
You gotta be real, yeah.
Me too. And being an inspiration to the children in my life. Even though I don't have my own kids, I might be the best, like, cool uncle ever.
You will. They're our future. They're our future.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, I take real pride in that, fighting for what's right and standing on what I believe and being there for the children in my life. That's really what I'm about.
I love that, Marco. And thank you for having me on, brother.
Oh, dude. It's my honor. Thank you for chatting with me. And tell people where they can support you.
Find me at Arthur Kwon on YouTube. I'm very new to the YouTube game, but I've been banned 17 times on different platforms. So I'm trying to do the YouTube territory, so you can support me there. Twitter is at BadAsian, BADAZN. Instagram is hi, this is Arthur. And most importantly, my Substack is Arthur Kwon Lee. So arthurkwonlee.substack.com. And if you love beautiful things, if you want to commission your very own masterpiece in art, I'm the one that's on this side of the aisle making these beautiful things. So,
and that's arthurkwonlee.com for your paintings, right?
Yes. Yeah, you just click the consultation and
perfect.
Just talk. That's it, yeah.
And if you want to support what I'm what I'm fighting, the lawsuits, I'll put my PayPal.
Help Marco.
Everything helps. Yeah, everything helps. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Respect. Thank you.